All right, William Keller is on the phone. Listen to this. He held the highest security clearances and has written extensively about the FBI, defense technology, multinational corporations, the intelligence community, and the arms trade. He served as security analyst for the United States Congress for 10 years. He's an expert on surveillance issues, and he's written this book called Democracy Betrayed, The Rise of the Surveillance Security State. He's also a professor of international affairs, by the way. William Keller, what an honor. Thank you so much, sir, for waiting for that and to be on the air with us today.
Well, good morning. It's really, really nice to be with you.
Yeah, you've done it long enough. You've seen the changes. Are we making changes since 9/11, let's say, since September 11th, 2001, that are dangerous to us, but sold to us in a sense because we are being led to believe that they protect us?
Well, yes, Larry. You've hit the nail on the head. My book's really a broadside against the excesses of counterterrorism and of the intelligence community that I believe are eroding our civil liberties and our freedom. It's really the case. Basic democratic values like privacy and rule of law are at stake. So the book looks deeply at the rise of the surveillance security state, as I call it, a state within the state that's supplanting liberal democracy. And that's the democracy that the founders thought about, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, they never in a million years would have figured there'd be something called face recognition technology. I mean, that's a horror story waiting to happen. If technology leads everybody to believe that a person has the face and must be the criminal, I mean, my gosh, somebody who's totally innocent could be arrested. I mean, we all have, what do you call them, doppelgangers?
Yes.
Well, this face recognition technology really is just another move into recording everything that we do and being able to track people and trace them. As the technology gets more sophisticated, so do the surveillance agencies and also the ad agencies that are trying to track you.
What exactly is being monitored? Is it every phone call? Is it every computer stroke? Like when I send an email, let me tell you one of my fears, because I do the news, okay? And so let's say I have a story. I do the news sometimes at home, and I'll just send it to myself by email. So let's say one of those stories is about a terrorist. I'm afraid to put it in my email for fear that it's going to send off a red flag.
Yeah.
Well, it could get picked up, and I suspect, I probably Googled everything about terrorism and counterterrorism that's possible, and possibly, nothing would come of it. But the fact is that especially if you are dealing with a foreign person. Have you ever made calls to Europe or other places like that?
For the show. We do it for the show all the time.
Yeah, we do.
Well, definitely don't use the word terrorism or surveillance or anything in that, because they'll get picked up. And they actually, the big communication companies like Verizon and AT&T have routinely worked with the government over many, many years, and up until just a couple years ago, they gave all of the emails that came in and out of the United States, which is billions of emails, to the spy agencies. And the spy agencies worked out technology to search through them and find words like terrorism. So, yes, the answer is I'd be a little worried, especially if I'm dealing with foreign people.
Okay, but wouldn't they look deeper? Wouldn't they look to see if it wasn't just somebody, writing a story or something?
A journalist.
Yeah, I think that they might look at that, but I think the other way to think about it is it's kind of unaccountable power, and so they can do pretty much what they want. We know what the cop on the beat is allowed to do, right? And we know when he or she steps across the line. That you can get arrested, you can get in a lot of trouble, but this goes on behind us, our backs, and we have no idea what they're doing. Let me give you an idea of the magnitude of it. About $120 billion a year is spent on these surveillance agencies and the Department of Homeland Security as well. This is an enormous amount of money, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who are working in this sector of the government. We don't know what they're doing. You can do a Freedom of Information request, but the fact of the matter is most of the time you have no idea what they've done. And I'll tell you what my view is, that they've really turned the internet into a giant surveillance and recording operation.
So they really can't be transparent like some of the presidents have said they were going to do.
No, they can't be transparent. The thing is that they're so huge, and when you have 100,000 people writing reports and investigating things, it can get pretty dicey. I'll give you an example in the way that they're going after Mr. Trump. They have both the CIA and the FBI are conducting secret counterintelligence operations, which are looking at Mr. Trump's activities in Russia when he was there and investigating his people. That's getting pretty rough and tumble. That's actually challenging the authority of the electorate and challenging the authority of our highest elected officials. I don't care what you think of Mr. Trump. He has a right to be left alone by the intelligence agencies.
You would think so.
He's supposed to be the boss. I mean,
really. But any of them probably have had similar communications, I'm guessing. But there's a political element to that too. It seems like they do gang up on the political parties that they don't agree with.
Well, there's been a lot of interference in this election, the last election, and the first thing that happened was, Mr. Comey, of course, went out. Mr. Comey is the head of the FBI, and he made a big announcement right before the election that Hillary Clinton, might indeed be guilty of releasing classified information,
right,
new materials. But in fact, he hadn't looked at the new materials, and that might have thrown the election. And then after the election, President Obama asked for a report from the three big agencies, the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA. He asked them to report on Russian hacking of the election. So when the report came in, there was this little 2-page appendix on it. And this 2-page appendix alleged that Donald Trump had committed many crimes abroad. It alleged it, and it said what they were. Alleged. I don't want to go into it because it's alleged, and it may or may not be true.
Yeah, right.
But they had pretty good sources and so on and so forth. Well, instead of they gave the report to former President Obama and to President Trump, but they also gave it to 8 members of Congress, and the classified report, which was immediately leaked, of course.
Sure.
For political reasons, right?
Yeah.
So, then the next thing that happened was the Director of National Intelligence and the 3 directors of those agencies I just mentioned went to Trump Tower and confronted the new president. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
They were talking about what the Russians called compromat, prostitutes and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about some of that. So the title of your book, Democracy Betrayed. We're being betrayed. We're as a country being betrayed by people who have interests probably that are based on money, and it's usually always boils down to money.
Well, money and power, and it's really interesting you said that, because I think it's more power on the government side. The intelligence agencies are trying to gain more influence over Washington and over our foreign affairs and what we do. On the money side, the corporations are trying to get as much information as they possibly can on everybody because they sell it. There's a huge marketplace in information on what you buy, what you sell, what you say, and what you're thinking about, because then they can market their products. Have you ever been looking through Google or your favorite website and an ad popped up, and that ad was very close to something you were thinking about wanting?
Always.
Yes.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
I got your number, Larry. Now, let me say that it would have been completely impossible to have democracy betrayed if we had not had the information revolution. And this information revolution is as profound as the Industrial Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution or even the Bronze Age occurring, because it's changing everything. And the fact is we have not learned how to control this vast universe of the internet out there, and we don't really control it.
William Keller is our guest, and the book is Democracy Betrayed. I wanted to real quickly just to ask you about something. September 11th, 2001, technology, it wasn't that long ago, but at the same time, technology has changed so much since then. When the Patriot Act was first put into place, we were sold the idea, first of all, by the pleasant-sounding name, but we have some pretty sharp listeners. Rob and I were doing the show at that time. Well, shortly after that, I think, is when we started. But still, the Patriot Act came up. And our sharp listeners would point out that this is a violation of your rights as a citizen. But it was in the name of security. Is it the same thing, but on steroids, as they say, with what's going on now?
Yeah, I think it is on steroids, but we always frame this as a debate between liberty and security, and that's not the right way to think about it, because when you have too much liberty, not that much happens to security. You can still be secure, but when you have too much security, liberty goes out the door.
Oh, yes.
And that's what's been happening since 9/11, as we have built up our counterterror resources. And I think the interesting thing is that we've done it not in because there's a lot of terrorism, because there isn't. I mean, look, let's face it, 9/11 was probably the worst thing that ever happened to our country. It was awful. We had to find a way to fight against it. But since 9/11, a lot of politicians have based their careers on saying, oh, there's all this terrorism out there, you better be afraid. And the polls tell us that most Americans, or at least over half, think that they or someone they know will be a victim of a terrorist attack. Of course, that's not true. You have about the same probability of being a victim of a terrorist act as you do as being hit by a falling airplane part when you're out walking on your Sunday walk.
Yeah.
What just happened? I think
great news. It makes great news. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, do you think that the three security agencies, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, that they're intentionally causing distractions by making stories and leaking information stating that the journalists are running amok, so that people are paying more attention to the stories that are written than to what's actually happening in the government?
Yeah, I think they're creating a lot of stories. And I think that the politicians and the heads of the security agency talk to each other, and think about some of the stories you've heard of, like what happened in Orlando at that nightclub, and the guy walks in, blows away 100 people, 50 were killed and 50 were wounded. Now that's a horrible thing, but you have to ask yourself, was it terrorism? And the answer is probably not. It was actually a guy gone crazy, a psychotic with two semi-automatic weapons. Now, maybe this is a Second Amendment problem, possibly, but the fact is that the news media jumped on it. And I don't want to criticize you guys too much because, you know, I like the media and I depend on you. But every time there's a terrorist attack, there's 500 stories about it.
Well,
it gets run again and again and again because it's great news. It scares the heck out of people.
Right.
So what I'm suggesting is there are, you know, agencies of the government which are calling these things out as terrorism when they're not.
Well, and the other part of this, and I don't know that we're going to butt heads here or not, but the other part of it is this, that because she brought up the Second Amendment with the
Pulse.
the Pulse nightclub, that guy could have gone in there with gallons of gasoline. He could have done the same thing with a match. And so, but yet, if you take the guns away from I know you know this, it's a bumper sticker, but you know, if you take the guns away from the law-abiding citizens, then the bad guys will still have them. So,
This is definitely an area of politics where nobody's going to agree. I'll tell you what some of my thinking on it is that there's some point where you have to say, no, you can't have that gun. Now, maybe that gun's a bazooka. Maybe it's a fully automatic machine gun that can spit out, 100 rounds in 2 seconds. You can't let people have that, right? So the question is just where do you make that marker?
Yeah, right.
Society, we just don't know, and people, get very very passionate on this subject. So I'm going to be a neutral arbiter on this one.
but here's the thing: democracy betrayed. It does. It does sound like the argument we were having with the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act was interesting because it was a political thing as well. Instead of just looking at it for the facts as it was or wasn't, we were saying, well, it's George Bush's thing, so we should like it. But other people saying, well, no, don't forget who put it in there. I mean, if it's going to infringe on your freedoms, then on your liberties, as more appropriate than freedoms, then it's a bad thing.
Well, think about it this way. Once these laws get into place, okay? Like, there's a section in the Patriot Act that's gone forward. It's called Section 702, and what it does is it gives the National Security Agency the ability, and the FBI, the ability to do unwarranted searches. In other words, searches without a warrant, warrantless. So they don't have to go to a regular judge. They don't have to go to any judge at all to spy on you and other people that they want to, because of this Section 702. Now, when FBI Director Comey was in front of the Congress the other day answering questions about other matters, he said, one thing I want to ask you for is 702. It's absolutely essential to the security of our country. Well, I would say it's absolutely essential to the power of their agencies that they cut off. So you see, the politics gets mixed in there pretty clearly, and you are right that we do create these legislative acts like the Patriot Act. And let me say about the Patriot Act, it was about 300 or 400 pages long, and it was just stapled together. There are lots of things. They even made part of the law, one of the staffer's girlfriend's phone number was written on the page.
Oh, gee.
That's how quickly it was done.
Wow.
So, and they just wanted to react to a disturbed public, and the public at that point was willing to go along with anything.
Yeah.
And the main thing is they increased the budgets by a fourfold, a tremendous number of agents, and they became even more secretive. So that we spend now $120 billion a year, and we can't find out what it's going into. We can't even get. I can figure that out because I studied it, for 20 years. I can kind of get it, but that's a ballpark estimate. So really the question is, do we want to have transparency and government that's accountable to the people, or do we want to turn over some really essential functions of government to large armies of intelligence agencies and analysts that we can't control? We don't know what they're doing.
Well, do you think, where is all the documentation kept for all of these reports and things like that, and who is in charge of keeping that so it does not become tainted over the years? Things change, things pulled out, things added.
Well, that's the problem, is that we wield that classification stamp, and there are literally thousands of people in government who have the power to classify documents. And that just brings up a very important point you raised, because it turns out that it's not really that bad a thing when classified documents get released. Remember, the whole thing about Hillary Clinton's documents, emails, was that it might have classified documents. And I think they found, a half dozen or something. But think of this, when Edward Snowden released 50,000 documents, classified documents, I mean, it was illegal. A lot of people think he did the wrong thing, but and he should be punished. But 50,000 secret and top secret documents went flooding out, so anyone could read them, and nothing happened.
Wow,
that is interesting. Look at it that way.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, let me squeeze in the break real quickly. We'll be right back with William Keller. Again, his book is called Democracy Betrayed. We will be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be mostly sunny on this Monday, with highs ranging from 84 near the coast to 91 in a few inland spots. Moonlit on Monday night, low 55 to 60 in a few inland areas, 67 along the coast. Sunny and quite warm on Tuesday, high 85 on the coast, 92 inland. Wednesday, sunshine and hot, the high 90 at the coast, 96 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Tired of looking at stained carpets, dirty tile, or grout? Call Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. Make your flooring look great again. Stains, pet odors, allergies. Call Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. From serving our country to serving our community. Silverback Restoration, 414-5312. Residential and commercial. Their work is guaranteed along with your satisfaction. Check their website, silverbackrestoration.com.
The Orlando Fringe is back for its 26th annual festival, May 16th through the 29th, with over 1,200 performances from local, national, and international performing arts companies, plus area high school thespians. There's something for everyone at the Orlando Fringe. Enjoy the sounds at the free outdoor stage and bring the kids for Kids Fringe on the weekends. For tickets and information, visit orlandofringe.org. See you at the Fringe. If you don't go, you'll never know.
At Earth Fare, we don't carry any food that's bad for you. So you could shop here blindfolded, knowing that everything is 100% clean and good for you. In fact, we carefully select everything in the store as if your life depends on it. Because it does.
Laurie from Earth Fair will be on the air during AM Ocala Live coming this Wednesday at 11:05 a.m. with weekly deals and information just for you.
Live longer with Earth Fair.
Share the love this spring with Oak Ridge Dental Care. Oak Ridge Dental Care is having a canned food drive now till June 21st. So the next time you come in to have your teeth checked, just bring in 10 cans with you and you will receive 10% off your visit. Oak Ridge Dental Care is located at 9590 Southwest Highway 200. Call with questions, 414-4952. Please note, offers not to apply towards account balances or dental services already delivered and not in conjunction with any other offers, discounts, or reduced fees plans. Just Google it. Oak Ridge Dental Care.
Hooray for all the moms in our lives.
Right from the start, she was the one who nurtured you and supported you in every pursuit.
And this year, you are going to cater to her.
Call Honey Bay Tam at 352-816-0011 and order all her favorites.
No cooking for her.
If it's just the two of you or the whole family.
This is her day, and Honey Baked Ham makes it easy for you to pamper mom.
Now call 352-816-0011.
Oh, ask about their special candy selection.
All right, just a little bit more than 2 minutes left in this interview, but I wanted to ask something real quickly before we give out the information so you can get the book. By the way, I have a copy. If anybody wants a copy that I have of Democracy and Betrayed, call me and I'll put your name on it. William, I have a quick question. Are we being betrayed in spite of the law, or have the laws been changed to betray democracy?
That's a really good question, and it's a tough one. I bet you were a good student in college.
I tried. I was a good asker. I asked. That's why I do interviews, because I can ask. I don't know the answers.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one. I think your question was: is this all taking place in spite of the law, or are there laws that authorize it?
Right. Exactly.
And the thing about the laws that authorize it is that they're impossible to read. You know, I know all this stuff, and I try and read them, and I can't figure out what they mean very easily. I have to look up all kinds of terms, and they're terms of art. So the law really gives a lot of leeway to the agencies. And I guess my central thesis is they've taken the bit in their mouths, and they've gone forward much, much farther. You know, there is one thing I wanted to bring up, if you don't mind.
Yes.
It's about how much things have changed in the last 15 years, because I think a lot of your listeners might be people under 30.
Yes.
And they need to understand this. And I'll give you the best example of how our society has changed.
Okay.
You mentioned I was a security analyst on Capitol Hill for 10 years. Well,
Right.
I worked for the Senate. And I had a house right behind the Capitol building, and I used to walk to work every day. Well, on the weekends, sometimes I take my children over to the Capitol building. You know, it's right there near the Supreme Court and the Senate office building. It's beautiful. And we go inside. We go in, and I take the kids in, and there's beautiful vaulted ceilings and tiled floors and columns going up and statues of all the people in our history and explanations. It's a vast complex. You could walk all over the place, and there were like literally thousands of people. You didn't know who they were. They were just walking around. Well, today, you can't go in the Capitol building. I mean, you can if you get your legislator, you know, your congressman or your senator to give you a pass, and then you get a guided tour. So what they have instead is they've built what's called the Capitol Visitor Center, and they bring people in there, but you can't actually go in the Capitol building. You can't see the old Senate. You can't see what history is.
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
And that's a result of 9/11, and there are many other results. Before 9/11, you used to be able to walk into most government buildings without showing an ID. That's not true today. So they are very slowly kind of restricting the kinds of freedoms that we have. You used to be able to walk right on an airplane. Now, everybody wants some security, but we don't want it to the point where it takes hours to get on an airplane.
Right.
So. Yeah. I guess if you have a final question or something, I'm here.
The only final question is how do we get the book? That's the final question.
Okay. The best way to get the book is you can just go on the internet and just put in Democracy Betrayed.
Yes, I found it rather quickly, so that's exactly what I did. That's what I did. By the way, the video that we've just made will be up on the YouTube and Facebook by this afternoon. I have a cover of the book, the entire interview, since you're not in the studio. Democracy Betrayed, William W. Keller. Thank you so much, William. Thank you for the book and for being on the air with us today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
All right, me too. Me too. So much. All right, we'll be right back.
Here is your 30-second news brief. A house fire in Bellevue took more than 40 firefighters and 16 units to get under control Saturday. A Lake County Sheriff's deputy was fired for waving his gun in public and reciting lines from the movie Training Day. A 10-year-old girl is recovering after being bit by an alligator in Orange County. An Air Force mini shuttle ended a 700-day space mission yesterday. And Always Dreaming, the Kentucky Derby winner, was broken right here in Ocala at Croupies Newcastle Farm. That is your news brief from The Source.
It's time for Farm and Range headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. Canada and Mexico, part of the NAFTA trade agreement, at one time was opposed by the peanut industry, but now they are not opposed to it because of the number of peanuts being sold to those two countries. President Trump was going to make a change in NAFTA, but after a discussion with Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue and Commerce Secretary Ross, the executive order was withdrawn this past week. But now they're saying that they'll renegotiate certain sections of the agreement, but not destroy it.